Hello and welcome to all. The footprints and vestiges of the past, unearthed by archaeologists, tell the story of a mysterious and extraordinary human odyssey right up to the most recent history, the one we thought we knew everything about. With each great discovery, history has shed a new light. Did you know that the tombstone of Maria Sophia von Erthal, the woman who inspired the story of Snow White, has been found, or that a large city more than 9,000 years old has been discovered by archaeologists? Well, it's time to discover the incredible new archaeological discoveries that will change history. So, make yourself comfortable, because it's starting. It's almost impossible not to know the fairy tale of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. The 1937 Disney version is famous. At first, many people thought that this story, originally told by the Brothers Grimm, was a fictional tale. But it is agreed by many historians that, in reality, Snow White was inspired by a real story, that of Maria Sophia von Erthal. There are several indisputable similarities between Sophia's story and that of the princess in the tale. Indeed, Maria, born in 1725 at the time, had an evil stepmother and possessed a mirror speaking an acoustic toy. And that's not all. The dwarves in Maria's story are also related to a mining town framed by this mountain. The narrowest tunnel was only accessible by very small miners, who often wore hoods in the way that dwarves are frequently depicted. So, there are many similarities between the story and Maria's life. Unfortunately, Maria did not have a happy ending. She was blind, very young, never married and died at the age of 71 in a monastery. However, her tombstone had completely disappeared in 1804, after the demolition of the church in which Maria was buried. After more than a century, the tombstone resurfaced in a house in Bamberg, central Germany, and was donated to the diocesan museum by the family. Hilda is a druidess who lived in the Iron Age and died between 55 and 400 AD. Hilda fascinates scientists. In fact, her discovery is not recent. Her skull was first presented in 1833 by the Phrenological Society of Edinburgh. What makes it quite exceptional is that she died at a relatively advanced age, about 60 years old, while the life expectancy of women at the time was more like 30. This longevity suggests that the druidess was probably part of a privileged environment. But what could the woman look like? This is the question Karen Fleming tried to answer. To reconstruct Hilda's face, she scanned her skull and recorded all her characteristics. After reproducing the bones in wax, she added muscle, then skin. Finally, she used the measurements taken on the skull to model the whole thing and bring the druidess back to life. And the result is amazing. It shows a wrinkled woman, with hollow cheeks, thin lips and a mouth devoid of teeth, probably due to the diet of the time. However, this is not a simple face. It is a story that Karen Fleming managed to bring back to the forefront with her creation. Not so long ago, scientists thought that the cradle of modern humanity was in West Africa and that Homo sapiens had appeared just under 200,000 years ago. But all this knowledge is now obsolete. The reason? Well, in 2017, an international team led by paleoanthropologist Jean-Jacques Joublains conducted excavations at Jebel Irhoud in Morocco, 100 kilometers northwest of Marrakesh. Here, archaeologists have made one of the most important discoveries of this century, and with good reason. The fossils found show that modern man probably already populated a large part of Africa 315,000 years ago. These are therefore the oldest traces of our own species known to date. Unsurprisingly, this revelation has challenged the idea of a linear human evolution from West Africa and an Ethiopian Garden of Eden. Rather, the man of today would be the product of groups scattered throughout Africa. Moreover, according to Jebel Irhoud's archaeologists, this find also questions the representation of the evolution of man, which can be summed up as a monkey that stands upright and becomes a biped of humans. Nevertheless, despite the importance of this discovery, archaeological research does not stop there. For most scientists, it is possible to find fossils of Homo sapiens or even older. Before continuing this video, here is the question of the day. Who was the first king of France? Option A, Lothair. Option B, Clovis I. Option C, Charlemagne. Write the right answer in the comments and we'll see at the end of the video if you were right. The oldest pencil drawing is getting pretty old. For a long time, archaeologists thought that the first scribbles by Picasso in the Paleolithic date back 36,000 years, but a 3.9 centimeters long fragment covered with crisscrossing red lines has just set back the oldest example of drawings by a Homo sapiens by more than 30,000 years. Indeed, during an excavation in South Africa, in the Blombos Cave, Christopher Hinchelwood's team found an abstract drawing drawn in ochre on a small piece of ridge, a hard siliceous rock that has remained preserved for 73,000 years. The object, however, does not look like much. Moreover, interpreting this drawing is not a very simple task. Specialists even wonder if, in the minds of the prehistoric inhabitants of this cave, these symbols meant something. In any case, nowadays, no one has yet been able to decipher these lattices. One thing is nevertheless certain among Homo sapiens certainly slumbering artists. Here is now an exceptional discovery made by Israeli archaeologists towards the city of Matzah, 5 kilometers west of Jerusalem. In this place, the archaeologists have discovered the remains of a city that dates back 9,000 years and had more than 3,000 inhabitants, the equivalent of a very large metropolis like Tel Aviv today. The site had been excavated in 2015 as a result of motorway widening works, but its scale was not suspected. As the excavations continued, the archaeologists came across foundations covering between 30 and 40 hectares, including private houses, workshops and public and religious buildings. It is probably the largest city in the Neolithic Middle East. In addition, the 300 people who participated in the excavations were also able to collect tens of thousands of objects. Among them, a statuette representing an ox or a bull, a bracelet, jewelry, arrowheads, a pendant in the shape of a human head found in a tomb. But what is most valuable in the eyes of scientists are not the sculptures, but the stockpile of lentils. This food allowed researchers to unveil the lifestyle of the time, which was clearly highly developed. This archaeological site was therefore a veritable gold mine for scientists, especially since they also found objects that came from other populations. This proves that these peoples were already engaged in commerce. There's no denying that. The discovery of this archaeological site is a major discovery. Until today, you probably thought that mummies were a specific feature of ancient Egypt. Now, a scientific discovery has shaken up our prejudices in the most astonishing way. Mummies dating from the Bronze Age, between 2500 and 800 BC, have been discovered in Great Britain by scientists. However, they may not be mummies as we imagine them to be, because they were not buried in a favorable environment. Therefore, the bodies may not look perfectly mummified. The reason is that mummification requires a dry climate, and this is not the case in the wet soil of the UK. But then how can scientists be sure that they have discovered mummies? Actually, according to the researchers, the bacteria responsible for decomposition leave many traces of their activity and microcracks, making the water older than it really is. In case of partial or failed mummification, the water does not bear these characteristic traces. It was therefore sufficient to analyze the bodies found in Great Britain with powerful microscopes. In the end, scientists concluded that the bodies were indeed mummified because there were no traces. This discovery fundamentally changes our perception of funeral rites and our beliefs at this time in history. Scientists now assume that other European peoples were also able to mummify their dead. Thus, archaeologists are considering the possibility of finding other European civilizations that practiced the same funeral rites in the future. Here's a place that looks like it's straight out of a spy movie. Just a stone's throw from the beaches of The Hague are reinforced concrete remains erected on Hitler's orders, built by Dutch workers by force. When the city was liberated, Years decided to bury them under the sand to bury the memory of a painful history that had lasted for decades. They were abandoned and some even became playgrounds for local children. But in recent years, these bunkers have been unearthed, revealing the secrets of a period as sad as it was fascinating. During the Second World War, Hitler ordered the construction of more than 870 bunkers in the middle of the dunes and woods in 1942, of which only a little more than half of the 470 have now been found. The archaeological discoveries have certainly not yet come to an end. Nevertheless, in 2008, one of the largest bunkers was found. This required 7,500 cubic meters of concrete, which is truly enormous. Following this incredible discovery, volunteers from the Atlantic Wall Museum undertook the unique and unprecedented restoration of this immense bunker to show tourists the daily life of the soldiers. This is undeniable today. Thanks to these archaeological digs, we know much more about the military operations of the Germans during the Second World War. Bread has now become a great classic, a traditional staple in many cultures. However, it seems that we are far from having unlocked all the secrets of its origins. At an archaeological site in northern Jordan, researchers have discovered the charred remains of a bread cake baked by hunter-gatherers in the Levant, bearing the name of Natufians. It is said to be no less than 14,400,000 years old and the oldest bread ever found. The record was held by remains of bread 9,500,000 years old and unearthed in the region of Anatolia. According to specialists, the product most certainly resembled flat bread and had a taste similar to the multi-grain bread we know today. Amazing, isn't it? In fact, this incredible discovery challenges the idea that the origin of bread is associated with the emergence of agriculture and challenges the theories on the eating practices of our ancestors. Now it's your turn to comment. Which of these archaeological discoveries is, in your opinion, the most incredible? If not, it was Clovis I who was the first king of France from the Merovingian dynasty. Clovis I ruled France from 480. I hope many of you found the right answer.